Hello guys, this is Council or Officer David. Welcome to the lesson of today. First, today we are going to talk about virology. This is because actually we are running on the pandemic which is caused by a virus. Microscopic organism existing at a diameter size of 450 to 500 nanometers. But actually coronavirus is known to be around 24 nanometers to 25 nanometers, so small indeed, the smallest microscopic organism in the whole microorganism family. Okay, introduction to virus. Virus was first referred to as unfiltrable agents, which were discovered by Martins and his counterpart colleague on their way back in 1880s. Called them unfiltrable substances or agents because they discover them that they can exist in the tissues of a living organism. They can be breeded or grown inside them, and these things could have caused, if they were left to grow in, they caused serious infection poisonous like activities. So later on, when you talk about these guys called Walter Reed discovered the first virus, and that is smallpox viruses. And then later on 1901, where the name viruses was lifted to be, and then it was shifted from unfiltered substances or agents to the virus. The virus is a name or noun which was obtained from Latin. Latin meaning fluidis serum or slim fluid, poisonous like in nature. So that is that. Okay, coming to the importance of virus. Majority have been thinking about virus in a negative way, but not in positive terms. Now talking about virus, nowadays we have organisms or animals who are resistant to virus due to linkage of genetical materials of virus to the genetical materials of the animal cells. And then when replication does, the new species which is bred or the offspring which is had is obviously resistant to various of the immunological diseases or virological infections. So that is also the greatest part of it, to the natural selection. So it attributed into what we call as natural selection. And also virus is termed to be one of the most interesting terms of balancing of ecosystems. Pandemics, the cause of factors, contributing factors which are regulating the population of organisms. Now, coming to the structure of the epidemiological properties of a virus. Talking to that, see a virus in many terms. We have viruses which are associated with various infections, the effects of the environmental factors to the virus. Some viruses do well in narrow temperature range, and therefore they limit effect to other tropical conditions or region. Like the chickenpox virus. Some virus, by this idea of being limited by external environmental factors, they are critically disabled from moving or being transported by food supply from one zone to another, and therefore that is that. Now, general outlook of virus in terms of the epidemiological properties, we got to have virus with the two parts. The first part is ever nucleic acid. The nucleic acid can either contain the DNA or the RNA. So we got the DNA virus and RNA virus. Apart from that, we also have virus, the protein codes, which is full of caspase. Yeah. So in general, we normally call these two structures as virons, the virons. Now, when you come to the nucleic acid itself, its main function, it contains the genetical materials which help in synthesis of genetical material and synthesis of constructive materials. That is during replication and during development and growth of the virus. Coming to the protein capsid, the protein coat itself, it has attachment where the virus uses to attach to the mucosa membrane of the targeted host cells. Another thing is to protect the DNA and or the RNA depending on the type of virus. So it protects the nuclear part of the virus. Now, how is the pathogenesis of a virus? First of all, depending on the targeted host and the probability, the interaction between the virus and host, normally in general, lay way of angling at virus, they will normally attack various membrane depending on the nature of the membrane. So, like let's say HIV virus will attack a cell membrane, and what is the first target is ever the T cells, the T lymphocyte cells, the CD4 cells, maybe the macrophages. Depending with the type of virus or the causative virus, will have a different way of reaction. But there are some properties of the consideration when we are dealing with the what and how And in real sense, we're going to talk about the first one being viral strain, then the anomalous size, and we're going to also, apart from the viral strain, we're going to have also the way of exposure, or the route of exposure, and the we call it susceptibility. So the viral strain, that is when you call viral strain, the amount of virus which has been exposed to the targeted tissues. Apart from the viral strain, we also have the anomalous size, the size of each particles of the virus which is targeting the host. Then susceptibility, if there have been a prior immunity information, the memory encoded of such a virus attack before. And then we also have age and the immunity states of the person. Now this one can result as either there is no infection at all, or we call that one destructive or repulsive infection, which is one up within a short duration of time. Or maybe you get asymptomatic or symptomatic infection, depending on the properties or the viability of the host targeted cells. Now we have the protein coat, which I say that the outer layer or the membrane, the epithelial membrane of the virus, called made up of protein. Some few viruses have it made up of the lipids. So the capsid are those things like injection, which always in the cell membrane of the targeted host, they are welcomed in. So when the virus is exposed to the cell membrane, the targeted cells,